All right, let's go. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We're going to be talking about Facebook ads, and we're going to be showing what works, a little bit of what doesn't, and most importantly, we're going to give you the examples. And who better to show us this but the guys from StreetText who are running ads for us every day. So, guys, thanks for being with us. Troy Mack, Logan Prest. I know you guys have a different superhero name, but that's a whole different webinar. Thanks for being with us, guys. Can you quickly give an intro as to what StreetText is, and then we'll get into Facebook ads and which ones to use?
Yeah, I mean, StreetText, really what we do is offer a very easy to use lead service. We try to combine it with a little bit of everything. Again, largely it's the ability to create ads easily, instantly, using the knowledge that's been kind of essentially passed down in the generations, if you want to call it that. I mean, in this case, we're not talking, decades. We're only talking, 5-6 years, but still every single thing that's been learned from us internally and our clientele is then, in a sense, packaged and just repurposed and fed back through our groups to make sure that everybody is building effective ads. StreetText is a platform. Again, we have multiple templates. We have really just an easy way of clicking through a couple buttons and building an ad that's tested and we know works, and teaching people new methods that maybe they haven't thought of before. Lots of other cool stuff, but yeah, Troy, go ahead and fill in my blanks there.
Blanks? Well, yeah, I mean, we have lots of templates that we've tested, as Logan has said, and then coupled with that, it comes complete with landing pages where the leads can enter their information, email drip campaigns, and text message campaigns, all kind of built into one package that you don't have to then deal with the Facebook Ads Manager. We like to lovingly call it the labyrinth of frustration and confusion. And if anybody's been in there, they know exactly what we mean. Navigating that thing is a little bit of a beast. So we try to simplify that and allow you just to log into StreetText, pick from one of our templates, and quickly launch an ad. And then we kind of teach you from there a lot of the best practices as far as launching those ads, which we'll probably cover a little bit here today.
I love it. All right, let's get right into it.
Put it all together.
And Logan, just so you know, one of my agents just jumped onto StreetText last week, Mark Rader, and he already started getting some real people to talk to, which is pretty cool. We'll talk about that later. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us. Now we're going into it. Let us know what city and state or country you're from. I know we get people from Australia, which I'm doing a talk in Australia next month, which is cool. We get people from Portugal, France, Germany, Russia, Canada, obviously. I feel like Canada and the US are like one country though. So
North America.
Yeah. I love it. So everybody's getting in on this. Tucson, New Orleans. What's up, Pam? Denver. I love Denver. Lansing, Michigan. Nice. Kentucky. Naples. It must be like super humid in Naples right now. San Antonio, San Ramon. I can keep on going. Let's get started, guys. I'm going to start off with a question, and there's no right or wrong answer because we all do it a little differently, but I want to see what you guys have. When you're thinking of creating the best seller Facebook ad, what does that look like? And what should we be looking to do as real estate agents?
Yeah, I'll start with that. First and foremost, you have to really consider the imagery, because when you're looking on Facebook, you have to imagine there's a lot of noise on Facebook, and never in the history of people kind, we'll call it, has anybody kind of woken up in the morning and said, hey, I need to sell my home. I'm going to go check on Facebook. Let me go find a realtor on Facebook. That's not how this works. So first and foremost, you need to stop the scroll. No matter what you're trying to do, no matter what your call to action is, you're going to be able to mention that in the ad copy, but people don't go through Facebook skimming ad copy. They skim photos. So your photograph or whatever image you're going to be using, first and foremost, needs to instantly be recognizable and attention grabbing. One thing that we've identified as being, again, one of the most important things here with imagery is that the second you're confusing, the second somebody's brain has to wonder what the image is, where it is, what's going on, you've angered them in a sense. You've lost them. So you have to use something that, again, is palatable, but it's instantly recognizable to anybody who you're trying to talk to. And then the second step, of course, is to get them from the image itself up into the ad copy. Then, of course, use specific copy to make sure people understand what the call to action is. Use that as a filter. The image shouldn't filter people, in my opinion. The image should bring everybody to your ad. I don't care if they're, 16 years old or 80 years old or homeowners or renters or not. In my opinion, the image needs to attract everybody. Then let the ad copy filter everybody from that. If they're a 16-year-old renter, okay, I don't want them clicking on my ad, leaving me homeowners information because that's not who I'm looking for, but I do need to stop everybody. You need that opportunity to get every set of eyes on Facebook in order to then, again, filter to the more serious people. So if you're looking for any one thing, in my opinion, image is everything on Facebook.
All right. How about you, Troy? You agree?
Absolutely. A lot of it comes down to what we'll talk about a lot about is relevancy. We want to create relevancy with the people that have been viewing the ad. I mean, they're zipping through their newsfeed, right? They're there for entertainment. And, they're seeing posts from their friends, they're seeing stuff. They're seeing a lot of ads that are in there, right? That's vying for their attention. A lot of them are probably not relevant for them in that moment. So when we use imagery that resonates with somebody, that's recognizable, that is familiar, it's local, it's probably going to stop that scroll, right? So that's kind of the thing. And we'll talk a lot about too of not looking like an ad, right? You don't want your ad to be, hey, screaming, I'm an ad, because we've gotten really good at scrolling past those. We go, okay, that's an ad, go past. We want to stop that scroll. So when we use imagery that's familiar to us, it's typically then going to resonate with us. And we'll stop and be like, hey, what is this thing talking about? And now you can read that copy, you're going to find out. So things that look a little bit more like a post are typically going to end up stopping that scroll.
All right, I like that. And then if you guys want to make the T-shirt "Stop That Scroll," I'm okay with that, and I'll take one too. But that's a really great way of putting it. Stop that scroll and think about imagery. Think of how important it is knowing that both YouTube and Facebook give you, and Instagram give you the option to change the cover, right? And TikTok obviously as well. That's how important it is that they know that you have to change the cover to make it very attractive so people can stop that scroll. Now, let's get into the other dynamics of an ad. And if you guys have examples, either Troy or Logan, at any point, jump in. But when I'm creating a seller Facebook ad, not a lead ad, but just a regular Facebook ad, how am I trying to capture the most sellers possible? What would that ad look like? Besides me focusing on the picture, what are the things that I'm looking to do?
Well, I can share what our basic one of our top performing templates that's available for those who start a trial with StreetText. Cool. And we can just kind of walk a little bit through that and what that actually looks like and why it works. So I'll just share one here. So hopefully you guys are all seeing this. This is one that we're running for Calgary. So Logan, this is your client. If you kind of want to talk about this imagery and this copy, I think we can highlight that.
Yeah. First and foremost, I wanted to mention, Tristan, kind of as you passed it over, you said something about an attractive ad, right? This is not an attractive ad. And that's not what we're trying to do here. And that's kind of part of what you're trying to do is know who you're talking to, know who you're trying to attract, and know who you're omitting when you're using particular imagery. Consider right now that I'm using an image of a blue home, right? Now, what if I personally own a red home? I see an image of a blue home. How does that resonate with me? It doesn't. You use an image of a for sale sign. That one is one of the most common real estate ads out there is a for sale sign, right? With the sold symbol on it. Now, who do you think you're attracting when you're using an image like that? You're attracting realtors. Realtors are tuned to look at those gallows signs. So what I'm trying to do here with this map image, again, it's not visually appealing. That's not what it's trying to do. It's trying to be instantly recognizable. So if you're whipping through here, and for you, Tristan, you're going to look at that map and you go, oh, I don't even know. That doesn't look recognizable to me. You're in Malibu. You have this isn't supposed to work for you. That's the idea. For people who live in this area, as they're scrolling through again, there's something their eyes, even before their eyes see this, their brain sees it. And their brain tells them something's happening where we currently are. So what people do, it's human nature. Whenever you see a map image, the first thing that you do is you find where you currently are on that map. And it's a demo that we do all the time. And again, right now it's a little bit less impactful. But if I was talking to one person and I was building that ad for them, I asked them that question every time. I'm like, where are your eyes right now? I guarantee you it's on the city that you live in. And they're like, yeah, because that's exactly what happens every single time. So now we've got your scroll stopped. We've got your eyes where I want them on the map. Now I want your eyes up to where I want them next. So now it comes down to the ad image is appropriate. Now the ad copy needs to do part two. We need to stop their scroll. We now need to filter the more from the less serious, the homeowners from the non-homeowners. So that's kind of what the ad copy is going to do. Now, a lot of people will start to then specify the area. If someone want to buy your Calgary home, your Malibu home, your such and such home, but understand again that there's that 15-mile radius involved. So in my opinion, if you start specifying any one city, you've lost relevancy among the majority of your targeted area. So what we want to do is two birds, one stone. First, I want your eyes up there. Second, I want the whole area to find relevance in what we're doing. So that's the purpose of the emojis here. Without the emojis, there's very little that draws your eyes upward. But as soon as you put in those simple emojis, as silly as you may feel that they are a enormous marketing benefit, because again, your eyes start down here on the map. They're drawn up to that ad copy based on those emojis being here. They read very simple ad copy. Don't try to get too cute here. You try to write a paragraph, they're gone. Right? So something as simple as this: if someone want to buy your home, would you sell it? Find out its value in the current market. It's a very clear, distinct call to action. There's very little guesswork. It's a very easy thing to say, okay, I'm interested. Click. They put their information in. The rest is history.
Yeah. All right. Dude, I love that. Somebody asked, how do I add emojis? You guys have any shortcuts on how to do that?
Troy, go ahead.
Yeah. So emojipedia.org. Great place.
Emojipedia.org, and that's
It's free. It's like encyclopedia, but in Emojipedia.
Perfect. Let me put that in there. People are going to love that. All right, dude, let's go a little deeper into that ad, because if I'm going to grab a map, right? If I'm going to create a regular ad off of Calgary, right? How do I decide that I want to show just Calgary and not dive a little deeper or dive further back? How do I decide what I want to do if I'm going to use the map?
Sure, I can take that. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I'll show you basically the process that we go about creating these ads. So in here, we'll just jump back into an account, and we'll go into StreetText account here. Looks like I'm going to have to jump into another one, so just give me a second.
Dude, you can jump into Mark Raiders if you find his account. He's on my team. He's been running it for about a week and a half now. So,
well, and while Troy's doing that, I'll just quickly explain a little bit of what you're looking for. Again, that map image is going to be tied directly to your targeted area, and every agent will have their own requirements, what they're currently looking for. So, for instance, you're targeting 15 miles in the States. You don't have a choice around that, but you may choose to zoom your map image in considerably if you're really only working a niche market. Be more visible to that area. You're going to drive up your lead cost, of course, right? You're going to lower your ad relevancy, but that image, again, will attract more people within the central location that you're interested
in. Awesome.
Here we go.
Let's take a look at this.
So this is typically that map one, that funnel that we work with a lot of our trials. And they just simply come in here and select. And what we recommend is for them to really understand what that targeted area is. So for those people that are in the US, they are limited to a 15-mile minimum radius that you can target, right? And up here in Canada, we're lucky, we're not limited to that. We can go down much smaller. But in either case, you do really want to understand, okay, first off, where do I want to target, right? So, I mean, we could use Calgary, but we could even come down here. I'm going to go next in our template builder here, and I'm going to actually really understand what that targeting looks like. So we always recommend dropping a pin. We typically recommend, okay, think of an address that's central to where you're willing to go 15 miles in any given direction.
Got it.
Get started with that. You know, let's maybe use, we can use Malibu for an example.
Yeah, Tristan, do you have an address that you'd like? If this was yours and we're setting up your ads right now, where would you be dropping your pin?
Probably somewhere around Point Doom. So let me give you an address in Point Doom.
Sure.
That way you guys can get. All right, ready?
Ready.
All right. I'll give you a really nice one here. It's right on the ocean. Let's do 28946 Cliffside Drive in Malibu.
There we are. But so that's going to orient that pin. We're dropping it right there. I'm going to make this bigger for you guys so you can all see a little bit more clearer. When we drop that pin right there, that's going to be the area that it's going to target, right? So you want to take a look at this and go, okay, is that the area that I actually want to work, right? You can then come in here, you can move it around, you can do whatever you need it to do, right? One of the things that we kind of recommend here is, because it's the 15 miles, if you want to hack this a little bit, you can drag it out to say, let's out here into the ocean, because fish don't click.
No, not yet.
Allows you to, yeah, exactly. The housing market on reefs is probably not very good, but so it allows you to kind of get a little bit more localized if you wanted to, right?
Nice.
But the important thing here is that, let's say we're dropping it, whoops, mouse is sensitive. Let's say we're dropping it right in there, and we really want to take note of where we're targeting, right? Because as we've been mentioning, is that relevancy. We want to create relevancy. So if this is the area that we're targeting, we want to make sure that our imagery is going to line up with that, right?
Got it.
So once you kind of get that in there, we're going to make sure that we can see Thousand Oaks in here. We can see a little bit of the state park. Like all of that's kind of in there. So now what I would do is I would come back and we'll make this small again so I can set that pin. I'd actually use the same address just to help me now set up the imagery. We hit done, set those coordinates. We come back here, and now we're going to set up our imagery for this ad. So I'm going to use that same address, set that in, and we have a couple of versions of it. We do a satellite version, a map version.
So why go map version over satellite? I'm just going to
I'll take that one. For me, every area is different and everybody has their own preferences. But again, the second you look at it, like move it to satellite for a sec for us, Troy. You might notice, for instance, and drag it down a little bit so you can see a little bit more of the coastline. You living in this area, you probably look at that, Tristan, and go like, okay, I know where that is. But I find it to be a little bit dark and it doesn't really pop off the screen. In this area, given that you are coastal, it's a little bit more recognizable. If this were straight landlocked and not coastal at all, you'd have a much tougher time knowing immediately and instantly exactly where this is. Whereas as soon as we change from satellite to map, what you'll see, go ahead and change it for me, Troy. It brightens it up considerably, and typically, well, get rid of the train too, there you go. Typically, in most areas, the second you add it to that map, it's brighter, it's more engaging, it's clearly obvious where exactly it is. And again, look at your image, no matter what you're doing, and ask yourself, do I know exactly where this is in a second? And if you don't, the people seeing it won't either. And again, you're just adding to that confusion, they're gone.
All right. So let's say we picked this map. I agree with you, by the way. I love it. And it is attractive because I'm trying to attract buyers or sellers, in this case, sellers in this area. So they're going to be looking. Now, the verbiage on top, you said, let's add an emoji, right? So if someone wanted to buy your home in Malibu, put a little beach or a little house, right?
Let's play this little game first. Before you do that, I want everybody to find Malibu on the map here. Let's just pretend you're all residents of Malibu. This is kind of usually where this plays out. So you're looking at this now, and your eyes are on Malibu. Great. You'll notice there's nothing drawing your eyes up. right? You can all agree with that.
Yep.
Now go ahead and replace Calgary with those emojis, Troy. Look at the exact same place on the map, and after he puts in those 3 emojis, take a sec here. You'll see that, look at the same place on the map as you were before. Odd, but there's something that just makes your eyes want to go up. And then again, consider the fact that had we said if someone would buy your Malibu home and we've targeted a much greater area, that ad has a very low likelihood of hitting and taking off, because remember that with that first screen we were on that showed our big target, right? Facebook's going to rely on the first 500 impressions this ad receives to tell it how good of an ad it is. And Facebook doesn't just take a clump of people within that area. They're going to take people from all the outer reaches of that target. So you've said someone want to buy your Malibu home, somebody who is in, I don't know, Calabasas, a little far away, but you're going to find some people who are within that area who don't consider themselves residents of Malibu, who are going to react negatively to your ad, lowering your relevancy overall, thus increasing your cost per click, and also telling Facebook the wrong information. It's fine. The more you find people who don't like your ad, the harder a time Facebook's algorithm has at finding good people. So we want to limit that. So again, using appropriate imagery and using the appropriate verbiage that's inclusive of everybody, you're more likely to hit that proper first 500 impressions. Now, just really quickly on the similar subject, because I think I saw, it's kind of hard to keep up with the comments here, unfortunately. I apologize.
Yeah,
but,
I got it. I'm getting
the one question I get asked all the time is, do I zoom the map in more? Do I want to zoom it out more? And again, if you're too far zoomed in, it's not identifiable enough. I like there to be landmarks like this. You look at this, okay, you see Escondido Falls, great. But it's a lot more difficult to know exactly where that is. Whereas zoom back twice for me, Troy. Now that you're looking at it like this, there's considerably more landmarks. We'd probably drag it down. And even though I'm now showing places that aren't actually within my specified area, like Thousand Oaks, it's a landmark. I'm whipping through and I see that verbiage. It's clear and bright as day. Thousand Oaks. Okay, I'm near there. What's happening in my area?
Got it.
The image is really just to draw people in. So I get people who tell me, hey, I know I have to do 15 miles. I'm only interested in Thousand Oaks. That's it. Okay, great. You're going to drop a pin in Thousand Oaks. You're going to be covering a much greater area, but zoom your target or your image right over there and exclude the rest of your population if that's what you're looking for. Again, you're going to be looking at a rise in your lead cost almost for sure, because now you're very specific to a very small portion of your target.
All right, so let's talk about ads, but a little bit different. So now we've got the imagery, which I agree with you. I think the map is definitely something that's highly attractive to those that are trying to transact on either buyer or seller side. We've got the verbiage a little bit with the emojis. Now there's 2 things that I'm missing here. One is right underneath where it says StreetText, find the home value. You're going to capture the lead for me. That's one, right? The next thing after that is once they go through this funnel, am I only running 1 ad at a time or am I running 2, 3, 4, right? So you guys can go sequential, right? Say, answer my question on what happens when I click on it, because it's part of the ad. And then how many ads should I be running at the beginning?
You want to take the first one of those, Troy?
Sure.
Second favorite. So.
That's your favorite, absolutely. From this, and I can actually show you here what that funnel actually looks like.
Shoot, I want to know, because if somebody's trying to recreate this on their own, right, without using StreetText, I want them to understand the processes so they can say, I got it. I've got a website. I've got a landing page.
We're already fighting an uphill battle if they're not using StreetText, Tristan.
Yeah, I know. But I have to give them that option.
You know what? And honestly, that's something that we try to do in all of our webinars, all our trainings and everything, is that we don't teach things that you necessarily need StreetText for, of course. Everything that we teach, all the principles involved are absolutely applicable, if you will, everywhere. On any ads, the 500 people, the way that we build our ads, the targeting, all of this, it's definitely a necessity when you're building Facebook ads in general. We try to make it an entire package where everything just flows and functions smoothly, of course, but you can certainly build these ads of a very similar nature yourself without using our system.
Totally, dude. I agree. That's because you guys are going step by step. That's why.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So what I'm linking the bottom, I put a website link or I put a landing page link. What happens when people click on that?
All right, so it's quite simple. They click, they get dropped onto the landing page.
First thing, actually, sorry, Troy, I don't mean to interrupt, but this is
Yeah, no
also
worries.
one thing that we find is one of the most crucial steps is a congruent flow from the ad itself into the landing page. If you have a landing page that has a completely different image than that they just clicked on, again, that adds that extra hurdle. That's that moment of, where have I gone? What's happening, right? If you have that follow through, that congruent image from ad into landing page, there's a familiarity there, and people feel more comfortable as to where they've been brought.
You beat me to the punch on that one.
Sorry, buddy.
Really good point. Good job on ruining that for Troy Logan.
Way to go. No, I mean, the reality is, and we try to remind people at any given time when they see an ad, we stop the scroll, we pique their curiosity, somebody clicks on it. At that moment, they don't know, like, or trust you, right? They've never had an interaction with you. And when we take them to a landing page that looks similar to that ad, we actually start building on that trust, right? They're more likely then to leave their address. So, and that's what's going to come. That's the first step in this, is they're going to click analyze my property and they're going to drop their address in there. So, and we do this one step at a time, because typically what we found is if we require all this information all up front, all at once, we're less likely to do it. So we kind of take a softer approach. Let's just start with just an address. So they click on this, that address has now been submitted. And now at this point, they're an address only lead. It's great. You know, some people might not go to this next step, and that's okay, right? They're afraid to get spam, or, you know, thought that there might have been a quick home evaluation that was going to pop up here. But we always tell people, they are still somebody that's interested. They've raised their hand. They want to know what their home is worth. So follow through, you know, cross-reference tax records, find their name, send them something in the mail. You know, be that person that actually follows through with it. But now I can leave in my email. I'm going to give you permission to email me. I'm going to hit next. And at that moment, I'm put on a 9-month drip campaign on the email side, starting with an email that goes out immediately into my inbox.
Okay.
Right?
This part that you're taking me through right now, the landing page, I think this part is the one that's missing from a lot of agents.
Yeah.
Ads, right? Because you just create the ads and then they click on the ad, but it only takes them to a website. So I like this part that allows us to capture more information.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise they're not, you know, drop them on your website. How are they going to connect with you? How are you going to get a conversation started, right? So
we like to look at that as
start.
like trading fake internet currency. You know, it's like, hey, my ad got 80 likes. It's been shared all these, you know, great. How many leads have you got? Huh? Right? You're paying money for nothing. If you don't have an appropriate way to gather the leads, right? You have to attract the leads, you have to gather the leads, you have to manage the leads, then you have to drip on the leads. You have to be able to do all of those things. Otherwise, you're spending money on nothing.
Yeah.
Very true. All right. So what happens after this right here?
Well, right here, they can give you some details about their property. You know, when are they looking to sell? Immediate, just curious, maybe 6 months from now. I mean, we tell people are going to, I mean, we're giving people an opportunity to give a little bit of information here, but it's not about pre-qualifying at this point, right? They might say that they're immediate, but they're actually just curious. People will use anything as a defense mechanism, right? But it is about that starting that conversation up, doing discovery, trying to find out what is piquing their curiosity. And you know, treating everybody as just curious is actually a really good way to go. It allows you to be casual in your conversation, allows you to not go in for the kill, as a lot of people want to do, right? I mean, this is about them and their home, not about, you know, us and selling their home. So really important piece in there. And then we hit this next portion in here, and this is where they can leave their name and their number. And when they do, they are actually going to then get an automated or text message from who we call Julie, your virtual assistant. And they'll get another text message over the course of 3 more days just to generate a response out of the individual.
Okay.
So that's kind of that lead capture process after they click on that ad.
It's all right. So I love that you went through that whole process, because part of creating this process is really having the back end to go along with the front end. So you've got the great ad, right? But you're not going to be able to capture anything if you don't have something to capture them, right? So now let's go into running multiple good ads, or running, like you guys do, the same ad, right? Go into that explanation, because I'm not sure some agents will understand it. So go slow for me.
There's going to be a lot of people who've already heard me say this many times before, but it's not until they see it for themselves that the realization becomes truth, if that makes any sense. I can tell people the same thing, and I get a lot of, okay, yeah, whatever, until all of a sudden they do it for themselves and they see this. Now, this is something that, again, regardless of whether you're using StreetText or yourself, you only need 24 hours to understand how good an ad is going to be. Facebook relies very heavily on the first 500 impressions your ad gets. Now, one thing that we've discovered is everybody knows that as an ad is performing, somebody clicks on it, takes positive action. I look at it as a one-to-one action. One click means one point, let's call it, 1 point to the positive. Within the first 500, however, it's like 10 points, 50 points for every one positive action. There's so much weight being put on the first 500 impressions that what we've been able to do is you can run an ad and rely on, luck, I guess we'll call it, and hopefully it just happens to hit the right audience and it does well. But we don't really like blind luck. We like to essentially rig the odds in our favor. So knowing that there's 5 key variables when building an ad, we can control 4. Nobody, no matter who you are, you cannot control the 5th. So those 5 variables when you're building any ad are the ad image, the ad copy, your target, your daily spend. 4 of 5 I can control. The 5th variable nobody on earth can control is that first 500 impressions. And that is one of, if not the most important variable. So what I like to do, again, is using the scientific method, control 4 of 5. Using what we have identified as best practice, what consistently works everywhere, you control 4 of the 5 variables and let Facebook decide. Let the people who see it decide, what's going to happen with the ads. So what you'll do, in my opinion, build 3 ads. And again, you can do this, the map image, you could do for a sale sign if you like, use any image that you want, of course, doesn't really matter. But anytime you build an ad on Facebook, build 3 of them. Let them run for 24 hours. You do not need to test an ad for any more than 24 hours. As soon as 500 people have been reached, which is almost always 24 hours, Facebook's made up their mind on that ad, and so should you. So if you're running an ad and you've spent $60 and you brought in 1 email, well, you're at fault, not the ad. The ad should have been stopped long ago, right? So again, if you haven't brought in most areas, every area is slightly different based on median value and ROI and everything, but just as a blanket statement, if you've spent $10 on an ad and you haven't even brought in 1 email address, that ad is never going to be a winner. It's never just going to blow up and take off. Ads don't do that on Facebook. They almost always start hot and end hot, or they start slow and they continue slow and they just suck money out of your bank account. Right? So strongest of recommendations, never rely on 1 ad, but also don't let an ad run for any more than 24 hours without checking its results and making sure that they're in line with what you're looking for.
I love that, man.
I think the key point, Logan, what I think is that we also don't want to miss is when you launch 3 ads, we're doing what we call a split test. People know it as an A/B test, right? We know what imagery works. We know what copy works. That's why we set up a lot of these templates that we have in StreetText. We're showing you some of those best practices as far as doing that. But when we do a split test, we're doing something unique in StreetText, or you can do, if you do this on your own, that is different than the traditional A/B test or split test. We launch 3 ads, maybe 4 or 5, all depends on your budget and how aggressive you want to get. But each and every single ad, we go through the same process where we set the exact same image we set the exact same copy, and we set the exact same targeting area, we have the same budget. So this is where a lot of people go, okay, well, wait, what? Like,
But
what are you talking about?
Though, Troy?
Right? So yeah, exactly. Well, what's the difference? And we go, nothing. The only difference between each and every single one of those ads is Facebook with their algorithm and who they're going to set as the audience on each and every single one. Right? So if that is an audience that's not resonating with the ad, they're not leaving their information, they're not leaving emails, right? Your cost per click, cost per lead, cost per email is going to be not great. Right? So when we run that, we look at it 24 hours later, we compare each ad, but we're just comparing basically their audience. And if we hit the right audience, once we find that, we pause those two, keep the winner. Right? This is how you can really ensure that you are getting the most cost-effective ad in your market. Right? Like I like to say, at the end of the day, Facebook's going to take your money regardless of what you do. They don't really care if you get leads. As long as you're spending money on their platform, it's all good. We want to make sure that you maximize that dollar spend. And it's amazing when you run a split test for the same ad spend on each ad, how many more leads you can actually generate just off of one compared to another.
I like that. All right, so let's get into details now, because I know that there's a couple of questions for this. One is, do you run the 3 ads at the same time, right? That's question number 1. And if you do, how much money do you put in each ad for a whole day, right?
So for me, again, we have identified, and this is a bit of a detour, trust me, I promise I'll answer your questions. We have identified $9 a day as the most appropriate starting ground for almost every market, based on the fact that you can go dollar by dollar by dollar, $3 a day, $4 a day, $5 a day, and keep climbing. And typically you'll see the number of people you're reaching on a daily basis climbs with your ad spend, obviously. But there's a tipping point for every ad in every market where you aren't able to necessarily reach more people on a daily basis, but you have more money available. What Facebook will start to do is actually start to raise your cost per click. It's this weird little thing that they like to do, but they're doing really well, let's say right now at $5 a day. Right? You double your budget to $10 a day, you would expect to have twice as many people reached. Sometimes that happens. But if Facebook's algorithm isn't connecting and getting you more people, but you have more budget left over, they don't want to leave money on the table. They'll start to, you'll notice your cost per click slowly start to climb. So for me, we've identified $9 a day in almost every area to be the best starting ground, and then you can make your adjustments from there. While we're on the subject.
Logan. Troy just texted me. He said it was $9.05. So I think you're wrong. I'm joking with you. I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you.
My mind. You can't do 905. I don't believe.
I'm joking.
But no, like honestly, when it comes time to adjust your budget, the worst thing you can do is raise or lower your budget by more than a 25% threshold based on its current value. Same principle, never pause an ad for more than 3 days at a time. Both of them do the same thing. As we all know, and as we're kind of talking about, Facebook relies on a lookalike audience. As person A takes positive action, Facebook then says, okay, I'm going to find more people like person A based on search history, based on sports team preference, based on profile type, largely, right? So we need to make sure that those buckets are being filled. People who take negative action are put into our negative bucket associated with that ad. Facebook then tries to avoid those people. You raise or lower a budget by more than 25% its current value within a 3-day period, you've emptied your buckets. You pause an ad for more than 72 hours, you've emptied your buckets. So smartest thing to do is when you're coming up with your split test, figure out the amount that you're going to be happy with leaving the winning ad long term. So if you're going to say, hey, I'm comfortable spending $15 a day. Worst thing you can do is build 3 ads at $5 a day each. Because what's going to happen after 24 hours is you're going to pick your winner. You're going to want to raise that one's budget to that $15 value, and you're in trouble because you're starting a fresh ad at $15 a day, basically. Smartest thing you can do is understand how much can I afford? How much do I want to spend on a daily basis? Do all of your ads at that value, even if it's triple the amount you want to stay at, because day 2, you're turning 2 of those ads off. if that makes any sense.
It does. Can we now that you explain that part, can we take a look at some ads so we can see the back end of the winners of those ads? Because then that's where the magic happens.
No, and that actually was going to lead me to a slightly different maneuver anyways, based on the fact that the guy that we've been showing the account for, his name's Graham. He's one of my clients I've been working with for a while now out of Calgary. He didn't like the map image. We got it to work a couple times. You know, we were playing around with it. We didn't quite see the results in his area, which is quite rare. Usually, I would say very typically, we get that image to work very well. He wasn't over the moon with his current results, so we decided to move him into a different path. Now, that map image, like I said, 90% of the time it works. It works very well. Sometimes it doesn't. What do we do next? Well, it's the same principle of making sure you're using an image that's instantly recognizable, relevant, and ties you locally to the area that you're in. So with this gentleman, actually, and this is funny that this all just happened like this, I believe it was last Wednesday, I believe I was working with him, and we set up a different 3-ad split test that instead of using the typical map image, we used a city skyline of Calgary. So I don't know if, Troy, if you want to show us that one. We built a 3-ad split test for him, and the results were basically exactly what I would have expected. So we'll show you that if you got.
Well, and just to pause here, like very similar to the map image, where we're trying to create relevancy, we're trying to stop that scroll, we're trying to create, you know, it's like, hey, that's my local area. Well, anybody who lives in Calgary would recognize this city line immediately, right? They're gonna go, oh, hey, that's Calgary. This, whatever it is, they might not even recognize it as an ad at first. They're probably gonna stop. You know, I always laugh when you do imagery like this. Somebody's probably like stopping because they think it's like a news article on something that's happening in their city, right? But we've now stopped that scroll because we created that familiarity with it, and now they're gonna read and go, oh, hey, what's your home really worth? I'd like to know what that is. We create that curiosity. So when we talk about that imagery, the imagery, you know, always think of what that could be, and typically even too, it doesn't have to be stock image. You know, sometimes there's beautiful photography out there, but sometimes when it's that stock image, it screams ad at you, right? So, you know, I've even recommended, like, hey, go take your own photo with your iPhone. It's not going to be spectacular, but you're not there to show off your photography skills. You're there to stop that scroll, right?
And again, instant recognizability. Some of the most effective ads we've seen using this idea are ones that, again, like Troy is saying, isn't city skyline. It's more, you know, an old time clock from the, you know, early 1900s when the city was first established. I've seen ones where it's the welcome to such and such city. I've seen ones that, you know, there's right now statues are really a bit of a touchy subject, so we're not recommending statues, especially of political figures. But something like this, to me, this, unfortunately, I hate to say it, this clock means nothing to me, right? But I don't know where it is. If I lived in this area, however, the second I saw that, I'd go, oh, that's downtown Columbus or Colorado or wherever it is. You would know if you lived there. But that's the idea. It's not the most beautiful photo. There's you know, power lines in the background, but the second you see it, if you lived in this area, you would know exactly where it is. Job done. The scroll has been stopped, right?
True. Very true. All right, so let's take a look at these. There you go. I want to see that.
So we'll quickly go through these. Go to the very bottom, or scroll down a little bit for me, Troy. You'll see that one of the ads, again, it ran at the exact same time with, actually, which one are we here? Go up a little bit. So here, let's start with the one in the middle here. So you got 66 cents per click. Good start. We like that. $5 of ad spend, 2 leads. That's over $2.50 per lead. That's no good. For $5 of ad spend, no emails came in. Okay, so typically in this case, you know, it's a tough call to tell him to turn it off because he's only spent $5. But if you look up, he's reached 749 people. Facebook has made up their mind about this ad. They've decided that it's fairly relevant, right? That's what the 66 cents cost per click is telling me. But again, Facebook is largely looking at a look-alike audience. So just because people are finding it relevant and clicking on it, you know, that's raising your relevance, lowering your cost, but that doesn't mean you're getting quality leads. So these are the kind of people that are seeing the ad and liking it, but not taking full action. I don't want to keep paying money on people who like my ad but don't leave me their information. So this ad will continue to be served to the wrong audience. Now, there's nothing different, nothing at all. The same image, copy, spend, time, target, everything's the same. But look at some of the different results on the other splits. So if we go up a little bit for you, go start this one here. There you go. So you got 63 cents per click, 11 clicks, $7 of spent, 11 leads, right? 63 cents a lead. 4 emails at so $1.75 per email. Again, if I had run this one by itself, this one would still be running because I'm in love with those results. They're great, but it still didn't win, right? So let's go up to the top one that's currently running. 52 cents a click. He's reached over 6,200 people so far. He's reaching 1,200 people a day on this ad. Again, nothing different. It just happened to hit a better audience. That's it. We started with an ad type using imagery and copy that we know should work. There's a good likelihood of it working. We're not shooting in the dark with this idea. The idea works, but you still have to hit the right audience. You can have the best ad known to man. If you hit the wrong audience, that ad will suffer 100% of the time. And you can't control who that audience is. You drop a pin and you say, hey, Facebook, find me the best people in this little area. Great. That's as far as you can go with it. It's now up to Facebook's algorithm to start picking the right people and continue to pick you the right people. And if they haven't done their part of the job, turn the ad off and start again. It's just that easy.
I love it. All right. So you answered that question. Somebody said, well, what if the 3 ads don't work? Right.
Turn them all off and start again. Again, if my solution was, build an ad, spend $100 on it, and we'll see how it worked. Then I'm going to tell you, okay, if it didn't work, let's just build more ads. All of a sudden, that's quite an expensive proposition, and you're not going to be my client. It's not going to happen. However, if I can tell you that no matter what your ad spend is to a point, you're going to run that ad for 24 hours. If it didn't work, we'll try again, right? There's the testing period is so short on this that it's not that expensive of an endeavor. 24 hours of testing. So if you run 3 ads and they all fall flat on their face, do it again. If you do it a second time and they fall flat on their face, do it again. If you do it a third time, well, now we need to start looking at other options. The likelihood of doing it 3 times and not finding a winning ad is crazy to me. We've been doing this a very long time, and does it happen? Yeah, it happens. Is it frequent? Absolutely not. It is incredibly rare. So again, the next step then would be, okay, we've tried this style of ad, this copy, this image, it's not working. Let's try this other style. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try something new. But there's always something different that's going to work in different areas, and every market's different. It's leaning on us and our expertise. We should have a pretty good suggestion, in my opinion, as to what to test next. But again, try a 3 ad split test. You'll be hard pressed to find an ad that doesn't work.
Peter, I love that. So if people have questions here, do they email you directly? Do they go to Troy? Where do they go? Because I know we put up the link there. I know Tessa put it up earlier. We should put it up again. But
best place to come for the questions is we hold 4 days a week. We do a live Q&A that's really meant as a introduction to our dashboard, into our ways of thinking, into a lot of different things. So we get a lot of people who've begun their trial already. They come to that meeting to get their questions answered, but we also get a lot of people who haven't quite decided whether or not they want to start a trial yet. Come to those meetings. They can be a fly on the wall and hear kind of everything that is to be heard. They can pipe up and ask questions, and typically there's all 4 of us coaches are on those, and we're here to help. We're here to ask questions. We're not here to sell snake oil, nothing like that. So people ask us tough questions. That's great. I relish the opportunity to answer any questions that could possibly be out there.
Yeah, I can post that link to that webinar to book if anybody wants that in there in the chat.
Perfect. Yeah, and for everybody tuning in, we're going to send you a copy of this too. We'll send the list over to Logan, and then Logan or Troy or StreetText will be sending it out. But there's a couple of questions here before I let you guys go. Here we go. Let's see. Vicky, I think we missed Vicky's question. All right. Vicky says, what's a stat that measures the winning ad? Impressions and CPC or CPL or what?
I'll take that one. There's 4 things of importance. CPC, which is your cost per click. very important and displays relevancy in a sense. Low cost per click means high relevancy. So that's what we're looking for. But high relevancy and low cost per click doesn't always mean that people who are clicking are also leaving you information. So just because you're getting a lot of clicks at a low cost doesn't necessarily say that that's the winning ad, though CPC is a very important stat. For me, one of the more important stats would be cost per email, because I want to make sure that my BombBomb video automation is firing to all my clients that come in. I don't have time to do a mailer for every single client that comes through. I'm not doing CMAs for every single client that comes through. I want to make sure they're part of my drip sequence. So getting an email is going to be important to me. So cost per email, incredibly important stat. And then obviously just cost per lead. That's important as well. So cost per click, cost per lead, which in our case could be an address only, cost per email or contact information. Those three are the most important in terms of ad metrics. Then the fourth one being lead quality. Because again, just because you're getting a lot of cost-effective leads doesn't mean that they're within your preferred area. They're leaving you all the information you're looking for. They're the kind of people we're looking for, right? You might be getting a lot of clicks and a lot of engagement from people who aren't our key demographic. Facebook's going to keep serving that to that audience. So those are the four things I'm looking at: cost per click, cost per lead, cost per email. And then I'm looking at lead quality.
All right, great. Anna has a question. How many emails should I be happy with if I spend $9 for 24 hours? Anna, I'll let them answer, but also just so you know, you do get a lot of phone numbers as well, not just emails. So, but either Troy, Logan, what are we looking at?
Well, I can take that. I mean, it's difficult to determine because every market is different from each other. Right. So if I'm in a market such as San Diego, it's very competitive, higher end. Typically your cost per email is going to be higher there. But if I'm selling $1 million homes, my ROI is reflective of that. If I'm in Oklahoma, I might see a very low cost per email sitting around maybe $2 less or $1 even lower. Right. But again, there I'm selling houses for $40,000. Right. So ROI is going to be reflective of that. That's also why it's very important to do that test, right? So in your market, run a test, find that lowest, off of the ad, what is the lowest cost per email? That's then going to determine very quickly for you what your lead flow is going to look like in your market, right? And then you can make a decision. So whatever you set your ad budget at, right? If you set it at $9 and let's say I'm getting $3 emails coming in, so that means 3 emails per day. Is that enough for me? Right? Yes, no. If it isn't, you want more, then increase your budget. Right? If you want less, then decrease it. Right? But do it in small increments, right? Because as Logan alluded to in the past, you don't want to be changing your budget drastically. I always look at an ad that once you have a really good performing ad, you have to treat it like a very fragile egg on Facebook. It's like, protect it, keep it safe. Otherwise it'll crack and fall apart on you.
True. I'm going to answer Jennifer Turkson's question. Jennifer, great question. You get a lot of fake emails. So with our experience, and we're in Malibu, Westlake Village, Calabasas,